question. Oh, the glove thing.
All right. He's a veteran. It's going to come up. I'm going to reach in this cage, and I've got eagle gloves. These gloves are, actually they're double gloves. Here's what the inner liner looks like. This is very heavily padded here. Very, very heavy leather. This is a much softer, more pliable leather. And if I were going to be catching a cat or something like this is what I would use, because I can snatch them up by the scruff of the neck and their claws can just go at this all they want and we can deal with it. But an eagle has about 500 pounds of pressure in the grip of its feet. That's a handshake a Georgia preacher would be proud of. And for that, I need to add the second glove, the covering layer, which adds yet a third layer of leather, and this is heavy leather, to the upper part of the glove, and then an additional layer of heavy padding to my thumb, my fingers, but especially the back of my hand. Because when I reach in there to grab this bird, depending on how quick I am, it really determines who grabs who. Or who grabs whom, I guess is the proper way to say that. Having been on the receiving end of this a few times, it's not an experience I want to repeat, let alone demonstrate. But what I will then do is, once I get her out and get a grip on her, I will take off the gloves. Now that is not an unsafe practice, that is a safe practice, because once I get her out and get her under control, I have much more dexterity to keep a grip barehanded than, it's like trying to pick up a pencil with a catcher's mitt on. And so that doesn't work at all. But thank you for bringing that up, because invariably somebody will say, what's wrong with him? He took his gloves off. Yes.
And I have a question. Do we know how old the bird is?
We do not know how old the bird is specifically. She was not banded when she came in, and that's really the only way for mature birds that we can determine exact age. I'll get a better look at her when I get her out here. I just got a quick glimpse this morning. This bird's got some miles on her. So she is well into her adult years. She's almost certainly in the 10 and up range, just based on the look of her feet. And that's really where you can get an indication. But that's just an estimate. There's no way of telling, once the birds become adults, how old they are. And the question then is, if you see an eagle flying over and he's got a dark head, is that a bald eagle? Well, most of you know, bald eagles do not get their adult plumage, the characteristic white head and white tail, until they're 4.5 years old. And they will then be ready to look for a mate anytime after they're 4.5 to 5 years old. But up until that time, they're primarily dark colored and sometimes mottled. Their feathers do change each year during their first 4 years. But during the molt, or when their feathers start to fall out, during their 4th year, is when the dark feathers fall out and they will be replaced by the light-colored feathers. And sometimes it takes the birds a couple of molts to get it all the way finished, but from the time they're 4.5 on, there's no problem telling that they're bald eagles. And when you see them flying, you can really see that white head popping out. If you see them in the trees, you can really pick them out that way.
I don't have any interest, but my favorite website right now is the Eagle Cam in Norfolk, because she's got 3 babies in the nest, and it's like my background for my computer, because it's just so much fun to watch her feed them and everything.
Well,
so, I don't know if you know.
Unbeknownst to you, there are members of the Norfolk Eagle cult here. And now that you have found it, they will be approaching you about the initiation rites and the secret handshake. For those of you that have no clue about what we're speaking, Norfolk Botanical Garden has an eagle nest, and that eagle nest has a webcam placed on it through the good services of the Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, the Botanical Gardens, and the WVEC down there, the television station down there. They co-sponsor this, and that nest is watched 24 hours a day by people worldwide, literally.
6,500 on banding day.
6,500 people watched the 3 babies get banded. And that's, it's pretty remarkable. And of course, how we got in touch with these folks, and we will get on with this banding here in just a moment, at least, but how we got in touch with them is 2 years ago, one of the chicks, well, the chick, the high drama of the Norfolk bald eagle nest, and I'm sure I'll get it wrong, they laid 2 eggs and something happened to those, and people all over the world were pulling their hair, and wringing their hands, and lighting candles. Well, the pair laid 2 more eggs, and everybody was rejoicing and partying and popping corks, and those 2 eggs got broken, or lost, or whatever. And then everybody is, standing at the edge of the roof, ready to jump, and then a 5th egg was laid. And this is getting late into the year. 5th egg was laid sometime about mid to late March, and then on April the 23rd, I believe, 27th, the end of April, out pops the cutest little fuzzy eagle chick you ever saw. And believe me, a lot of people saw him and watched him. Well, about 3 weeks later, people started noticing something wrong because there was something stuck on the side of his beak. Well, that's not unusual for eagles. They eat some pretty gross stuff, and it sticks to just about everything that gets in touch with it. But whatever this was growing. First inclination was maybe it's a pick of some type. No, it got way too big. And finally, when the bird was 4 weeks old, the state wildlife veterinarian at the time, former state wildlife veterinarian, Dr. Jonathan Sleeman, who used to be the director of veterinary services at the Wildlife Center, he went down to check the bird out. The tree climbers went up, got the bird, brought it down, and he knew immediately that the bird was not going to survive without medical care. It was sent immediately to the Wildlife Center of Virginia with what turned out to be a viral pox lesion, avian pox. And the 2 stories that come out of this is that, we're thinking, okay, it's an eagle chick, so what? Well, little did we know that this eagle had its own 75,000 member fan club worldwide, all of whom got our email address in about 23 seconds. And half of whom had ideas and suggestions on how we should manage the case, because they'd seen it on the internet, so therefore, we had faith healers, we had, oh, there's this guy in Montana and he makes fake beaks for eagles, and you read the story, and it was some dentist and he did it in his garage, and wasn't that wonderful? Well, we happen to know that it fell off the next day, but they didn't put that part on the internet. Make a long story short, we finally had to strike a deal with the cult members and say, look, if you'll leave us alone and let us actually care for the bird, we'll post a daily internet update on the condition of this little bird. Well, our website traffic went from 2,500 hits today to 9,800 hits per day overnight. And I kid you not, those are real numbers. Overnight, a 4-fold increase in traffic on our site, and that group formed up, became the Nesties, the Norfolk Eagle Support Team International, and they have done fundraisers for us. The calendar, the Norfolk Eagle calendar last year, we thought, well, we'll print up a few hundred, maybe 100, see if we can make somebody buy them. Well, we had to do a second printing because the first 700 sold out in, 2 weeks?
Oh, they were gone.
They were gone, and people were really mad that they didn't get one. And, we're not in the mail order fulfillment business at the well, we didn't used to be, but we're now. But the truth is that the little bird, we did perform surgery on it. He's now healthy, but the pox lesion damaged the growth plate on his beak, so it's now crooked. And so the bird cannot go back to the wild, but we have really recognized that this bird has been such a powerful vehicle for people to get engaged with bald eagle conservation, habitat issues, and especially with the Wildlife Center, that we've decided that at least for now, he will remain with us as an education bird, and he's now seen by all of our visitors, and that's the good news. So.